scheduled meeting of the Texarkana, Arkansas Board of Directors. Before we have our roll call, I'd like to ask that if you have your cell phones with you, please put them on silent during the meeting. It would be appreciated. Also, if there's anyone here that would like to address the board during Citizens Communication Card, we ask that you fill out one of these cards. They're up on the front, and give it to our City Clerk, Heather Sawyers, over here, so we'll have a record of you speaking. Heather, would you call the roll?
Director Brewer?
Here.
Director Jewell?
Here.
Director Hart?
Here.
Director Harris?
Here.
Director Hullabush?
Here.
Mayor Brown is absent. Assistant Mayor Roberts?
Here. Would you please stand and remain standing for the invocation and pledge? The invocation will be given by Director Jewell, followed by the pledge by our Finance Director, Tyranda Henderson. Is she here? Do you mind doing that as well?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Let us pray, please. Dear Lord, we thank you for this wonderful day you've given us and ask that you guide and direct us in our discussions, deliberations, and decisions here tonight. We also ask that you reach out and touch all those in need of your divine assistance. These things we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. We'll move directly into our citizens communication, and I have one that was given to me, and it's Miss Mary McQueen. How are you doing this evening?
Fine, how are you?
Good, good.
I just came to thank you for the cleanup that took place in the vacant lot next to me. It looks better than it has in several decades. And I would also like to address the fact that there's a couple of obsolete signs in my neighborhood. Back in 2018, there was no longer a school. There was no longer a one-way street along Marietta, but there was no stop sign. And it took me 2.5 months to get a stop sign put up. There's still at that corner a sign indicating one-way hours during certain times to accommodate the school. Since there's no school there, those signs need to go. There's one at Marietta and Pinehurst, and there's one in Marietta and Arkansas Street. They need to go because it bugs me. I thought about painting them over, but I'm afraid of being arrested. So I'm hoping that y'all will take care of it. But again, thank you for the cleanup. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Ms. McQueen. Okay, do we have anyone else? Well, we'll move directly into our presentations. And our first one is going to be the presentation of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas Employee Service Awards. And let's see, I think we have 3 with us tonight. I'm going to give, does Robert have the? Okay. All right. Gotcha. Our first one, let's see, is Casey Tillett from Texarkana, Arkansas Fire Department, 5 years. I don't think he's Stephen Durham, Texarkana, Arkansas Fire Department, 15 years. Michael Richardson, Texarkana, Arkansas Fire Department, 25 years. Thank you. Dylan McCrary, Texarkana, Arkansas Police Department, 5 years. Not here? Well, we'll give him a round. Tom Briggs, Texarkana, Arkansas Police Department, 20 years.
All right, Mr. Briggs. 20 years.
Right, and that's it. Okay, we have one more proclamation declaring October 8th through the 14th, 2023 as Black Restaurant Week, and I'm going to read this proclamation at the request of Director Harris. Black Restaurant Week, October 8th through the 14th, 2023. Whereas Warren Luckett, co-founder of the Black Restaurant Week, started initiatives in 2016 to help culinary businesses and culinary professionals to the community that normally take place in major cities across the state, and whereas the systemic barriers faced by Black-owned restaurants, such as disproportionate access to capital building resources, demonstrates the importance of Black Restaurant Week. And whereas through diverse menu selections in an effort for Black Restaurant Week to spotlight restaurateurs, bakers, chefs, caterers, food trucks, and more celebrity-inspired flavors, and generate social and economic support for the Black culinary community. And whereas this week's purpose is to increase public awareness, obtain a larger exposure, and bring another level of customers through their doors. Participating restaurants reported a 15 to 25% increase in revenue during each celebration. And whereas it is an opportunity for everyone to become aware of the role Black restaurant owners and food providers play throughout the Texarkana area. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Terry Roberts, Assistant Mayor of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim October 8th through the 14th, 2023 is Black Restaurant Week in Texarkana, Arkansas, and urge our citizens to join in this special observance, signed by me and Heather Sawyers, our City Clerk. Thank you. All right. We had one citizen's communication card given to me a little late, and if y'all don't mind, this gentleman addressing, it's James May. Come forward, sir. Go right ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. I've been living on Pearl over there for 20 years. I love my little old house, but I've had some trouble here for the last 2 years. People next to me been in there with no water, and it's kind of rough over there. But Mr. Jordan sent them out there to tend to it today, so hopefully we'll be getting that resolved. But none of the 3 houses around me has no water, and I have to smell stuff, you know. It's not right. It's been 2 years, and they stole $220 worth of water from me. I still owe the water company. I had to go pay that. And I'm just having trouble with these people around me.
And that's 1716 Pearl is your address.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And
This is 1720, and then one on this side, and one across the street. Man, there's raccoons over there that whoop my bulldog. No, I'm serious. They won't do nothing about it. I've tried to talk to who I could with my education in the city. Mr. Tyler tried to get something done, but they come out today and got all her dogs and all her cats. She ain't had no water. You know, them poor old dogs, but I've been having to smell that for 2 years, so.
19 cats and 3 dogs. I'm aware, they called me today.
Okay, please help me,
I
sir.
understand.
They owe $220-something that I had to up immediately. They wouldn't even let me pay it out.
Sure. Well, I'll get this to our city manager and kind of bring him up to date, because this was late in the afternoon when I found out, you know, what was going on with it.
It was terrible what them dogs and
Sure.
cats had been living in.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, but we will get this in the right hands, and I'll let them know what's happening.
God bless y'all.
Thank you. Okay, we've got 8 items on our consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of the regular scheduled September 18th, 2023 meeting. Number 4, adopt a resolution appointing City Manager Robert Thompson to the Texarkana, Arkansas Public Employees Retirement System, TAPERS. Number 5, adopt a resolution to set the date for a public hearing concerning the abandonment of an undeveloped right-of-way of certain portions of land east of Manorway Road, west of Summit Drive and Pine Hill Circle, north of Tennessee Road, and south of Fortune Lane. That's in Ward 1. Adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Campo Incorporated for the Delaware Street Replace Upsize Water Main Project. Number 7, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase an F-150 pickup truck from McClarty Ford. And the last one, adopt a resolution approving the reimbursement of $33,000 to the Texarkana Regional Airport from the American Rescue Funds. The consent agenda has been read. What would be the?
I make a motion. Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes. We'll move into our regular agenda. We have no action items. Now, we do have some non-action items. It's an ordinance amending the City of Texarkana, Arkansas Code of Ordinances, Chapter 9-7 for the sale and discharge of fireworks for any person under the age of 18. The request of Michael Cram, TAPD. I don't know if anyone from the police department is here. Oh, Chief. Just come on forward, Chief. I know we have another gentleman that would like to speak as well.
If I may, Chair, may I ask a question first, City Manager?
Sure.
Just with respect to the non-action items, it is poised to allow the citizens to speak to you all indirectly for the next 2 weeks. It will be back on the agenda, next agenda available, but it is your discretion if you choose to take action on any item that is not actionable tonight. You still have that latitude, okay?
Thank you.
So I can either kind of explain to her how we got here or just take questions, however you guys choose.
How we got here.
Okay. So shortly before I became chief, July 4th of 2022, we had what has been described to me as Fallujah in part of the town just north of Division Street. And so we had 6 officers injured and treated for injuries who had responded to the area. The saddest part about that is the officers had to respond primarily to rescue the other first responders who had responded to care for injured civilians. So we had gangs of mostly juveniles that had just congregated there, and this wasn't the first year they had done it. And they had the pretty heavy-duty incendiaries, the mortar type rounds that they fire out of the boxes. I don't know if you've seen those things fire, but they just boom, 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 boom. And they were aiming those at each other and aiming them at the cars that would drive by on the streets. And then they were aiming them at the first responders coming to help the injured and to even put out fires that had been caused. The primary source of that was people under the age of 18. Most of them, I think, came from the Texas side, truthfully, because Texas doesn't allow the possession of fireworks in their city at all. So this year, we said we're not going to have that. We had a combined effort with us, Miller County, and the state police, along with fire from Texarkana, and we had a very heavy presence in the area, and we kept people out who didn't live there. We received accolades from people up and down those streets. In fact, I was out there today, and I talked to a guy just before this meeting, and he said, yeah, it was nice this 4th of July. There was no stupidity. So to try to help us ward that off in the future without having to put 45 police officers in a 7 square block area, I think it's prudent of us to put something in place where the officers can actually confiscate fireworks. These kids were walking into our side of the state, into our city, where they didn't live, with backpacks full of these big launchable fireworks. So the whole point of this endeavor is to give us some ability to deter that and to take those fireworks off the street.
I got a question. What does the ordinance say now? Does it say no fireworks in the, cannot pop fireworks?
You can't set them off, but it is not illegal to possess them.
Okay, then why do we sell fireworks in the city limits? Won't we just ban the sale of fireworks in city limits?
That's a question for you guys. That's above my pay grade.
Well, I'm just saying, if you gonna stop somebody from the age of 18, who said that, for instance, a parent cannot go get somebody some fireworks and get them to them, or that's over the age of 18, and I'm not stating all the people that was arrested in that incident was over the age of 18. But
No, we had 17 warrants issued from the incidents that day, and the predominance of those were juveniles. There were only a few adults.
Someone from what I saw on TXA today, I thought they was over the age of 18. So, but I'm saying that why don't we just go to the point of banning fireworks and sale city limits?
That's a question for you guys at the dais. Because that's going to hinder somebody's commerce and somebody's bottom line where they've worked to build a business. And I understand that. From my end, it makes it harder on the police side if we can sell them in the city and possess them in the city. But it is what it is.
Chief, you said that it was predominantly juveniles, but not all juveniles.
Not all juveniles, no.
So, you don't think they could get around that? I mean, by actually having the adults purchase the fireworks? So, I mean, we got the ban in place where you can't shoot them off, so they violated the law by discharging the fireworks.
Well,
So
this way we can take them from them before they discharge them. Yeah, there's always a workaround. If you're willing to violate the law, you'll find a way.
If they're in possession of the 18-year-old, you can't confiscate.
Correct.
So what are we really accomplishing? I mean, you're deeming that all 15, 16, 17-year-olds are irresponsible, regardless of where they're from. You're saying that.
I never said that.
Well,
Please don't put words in my mouth, because I never said that.
Well, you are by your ordinance. You're saying that no 15, 16, 17-year-old is competent enough to discharge or purchase a fireworks. I mean, that's what your ordinance is saying. In essence, how is it not?
And they can't buy cigarettes either. And
Pardon
so it's proven. There's all kinds of science to back it.
They can drive a car. They can join the middle. A 17-year-old can drive. Okay, but he can't buy a snake. That's a little thing you light. It makes into a little snake-looking thing. A 17-year-old can't buy a sparkler. Now, how is that fair to deem every 17-year-old incapable of purchasing such a innocuous material? You're deeming every 17-year-old that's going to go out and buy these artillery shells and shoot the officers. I mean,
They can't buy alcohol or cigarettes either. Yes, they can serve in the military, but they still can't buy alcohol or cigarettes. There's decision-making processes that the brain undergoes through development that aren't fully developed at those ages. And no, not every 12-year-old is a bad decision maker, but not every 15, 16, 17-year-old is a worthwhile decision maker either.
Well, I agree, and that's the decision that we make. But so the 17-year-old should not be allowed to purchase that little snake or there's many fireworks.
Those aren't the ones that put my officers in surgeries.
No, but they're being banned by your ordinance.
It would actually be your ordinance if you choose to enact it, but yes, it would. Indeed.
Drafted by your police department.
Drafted in my hand, yes.
Right. It also, it prohibits the citizens of Miller County outside of Texarkana that are not controlled by us from purchasing from State Line Fireworks these fireworks that they could legally, absent of this ordinance, that they could legally purchase and take these fireworks outside of Texarkana and discharge if it wasn't for for this ordinance. The 17-year-old could go to State Line Fireworks, purchase his Roman candles or his snakes or whatever, but this prohibits them from doing so.
Sure would, unless they brought a parent with them.
So, do you see the logic in that?
Absolutely, I see good logic in it. It's there to protect our citizens. And if we're on different sides of that, I'm okay, because it's there for protection of the citizens and to limit people getting injured.
And so you're okay with the business owner suffering financial loss because what you, as an individual, determines to be a necessity to the community?
I doubt there will be a pecuniary loss because there are plenty of adults to help people buy fireworks if they're so
So
inclined.
what's the necessity of the ordinance if there's a workaround to it?
What's the necessity of any law if there's a workaround to it? It gives us some enforceable power. And when you have kids coming into our city from another state, in essence, carrying backpacks full of incendiaries that they are launching at other human beings, I got a problem with that as a police chief.
Well, I can understand that, but if they know that's the law, you don't think that now the 18-year-old will be carrying that backpack instead of the 17-year-old?
They could, but it was mostly juveniles under the age of 18 that we were dealing with.
Yes, at that time, but that's been well publicized and it hasn't occurred since, right?
It didn't occur this time because of our presence down there. At a great cost to the city in overtime.
Hey, Chief,
Director Brewer.
we are discussing, like I said, no action tonight, but we are discussing this matter, and I do feel like we do have to be proactive. We can't afford not to do anything. This is from my perspective, working from a perspective of trying to deter any harm from anybody, any citizens. Right now, the policy that's written up might not be written up exactly how we want it, but we have time. We can go back and rewrite that. For example, those large artillery, fireworks or what have you, versus the little sparkles, what have you. Maybe we can rewrite that to say that, not all fireworks, but especially the ones that cause extreme duress and harm. But I do feel like, we do need to be proactive, and I agree with your approach as far as trying to deter, because we can't afford not to send a message, because that's what we're doing as community service, is doing our best to protect the community, for the betterment of the community. And so that's my take on it. And I think you did mention, because legally, medically, the human brain, they say you're not fully developed and grown to 25 and a half, 26. And so we just can't afford to see the type of action that just happened a few years ago. So, but I do think maybe we can rewrite this to the less, the smaller fireworks that don't cause extreme duress or what have you, to maybe have some consideration about that. But I'm all for those large artillery, fireworks, maybe have an adult or what have you. Go ahead.
Now, you let every person that has spoke,
Yeah.
that haven't speak before I say something.
Director Hart?
So, Chief, I agree with you. I think that the bigger issue here is that we as a city need to outlaw some of these mortar round fireworks that are sold. Because that's what I understand is injured officers. But so those mortar round type of, and I'll tell you, in my neighborhood, it sounds like Vietnam out there going off. I mean, I still don't understand why we are allowing, and I like Ken. Ken is a good guy. I've known him for a long time. He's an asset to the city. But why are we allowing fireworks to be sold inside the city limits when we have an ordinance that does not allow people to shoot fireworks within the city limits? And I know that's, that's been around for a while, but we're allowing them to be sold, but we're saying we're selling them to you, but don't go pop them here, and we know that's not going to happen.
Those make for awkward conversations on the 4th of July and New Year's.
But would you be in favor of maybe if we redrafted this, Chief, to where we limited, I don't care about an 18-year-old or a 35-year-old. Nobody should be popping some of those fireworks. Because I don't know what the purpose of them are, other than being loud and hurting somebody.
They're great in the right arena. It's in the right atmosphere, in the right location, the right geography, not in somebody's backyard.
Yeah, that's a county problem. That's not a city problem.
I don't know how we would write it to pair out just certain ones, but I think if that's what the board of directors wants, it's obviously worth a consideration.
So if we just said, obviously if we didn't get it to go that way, if we said anyone under 18 can't buy these types of fireworks, would that be sufficient to the PD?
It kind of defeats the purpose for us to be able to enforce it for juveniles. It's the possession of them that we want to stem in the city for juveniles. First of all, you can't shoot them off in the city, so if you're shooting them off in your backyard, you're violating the city ordinances anyway. But if you just possess these things and you're coming into our city from someplace else to shoot them off, you're not doing anything for the citizens of this city.
So if their defense was, I'm a parent, I went and bought one of these fireworks that my 17-year-old's not supposed to have, but I give it to him after I have purchased it, is his defense that, well, I know I didn't buy it, but my parents gave it to me? How do we delineate that?
That's the possession factor. It's that possession, not purchase. We're not there at the point of purchase.
Okay.
We're at the possession end. And this is, I did 3 interviews, I think, on this today. And I was asked what, in the first one, I think it was you, asked me what the fine was to go along with this. And truthfully, I didn't care. It's not meant to be punitive to anybody. It's meant to be a safety factor. I don't care. I would not ask my guys to go out and write tickets for all this stuff. Just take them away from people who shouldn't have these things.
So last question, how many tickets did we write last year, like on a July 4th?
Just for fireworks, I'm not sure. I think that night we wrote all the agencies out there. Remember, we had state police out there too.
And we should not have to have those we should not be having to bring all those resources in to do that. And I'm glad that you were proactive in doing that, because my primary goal is the safety of our police officers. I mean, if it caused it to be better for our police officers, I'd get rid of all of them. But I do know that people like to do that for fun.
It makes it hard to enforce any type of ordinance if we allow the possession of them in the city,
Okay.
but we don't allow them to be shot off in the city. It's a hard thing to explain to our citizens. Well, I just spent $100 on these things. You mean I can't set them off?
You're selling them in the city limits. I'm done. Thanks, Chief. Thanks for all you do.
Well, I think anything that we can do that protects our police officers and the citizens, we have to do. I mean, we put our officers, anytime they put their uniform on, it's a dangerous job anyway, and we appreciate what you do. And, I know this is a kind of a tricky subject here, and I know we have Mr. Carpenter that wants to speak in a moment about this, and I don't know if there's I'm glad we're not taking action on it tonight, and I'm glad our city manager has put it where we can have some discussion and get everyone's input on it. But did you have something you wanted to say, Director Hollenbush?
I do. Is there any way, because, there would be situations where teenagers would want to buy these and go out into the county and set them off. Is there a way to amend this, and this may be a city attorney question too, so that they could purchase them and transport them outside of the city? Is there any, could it be
There's
possession?
no way to
with intent
enforce that. They
discharge?
could just tell us they were on their way outside the city.
Yeah.
There's no enforcement measure there.
If it was possession with intent to discharge, is there any
Well,
language that could?
You would hamstring us. We would not be able to take action on that.
Man,
You go ahead, Director Harris.
My question is that you say if a citizen walking around down with a backpack, how would you know that he have fireworks in the backpack without doing a search. And I don't want to write an ordinance that's gonna throw away the Fourth Amendment. So, a citizen will have that right. So what point would you make that, with the police officer, and which this officer, I said, the attorney, at what point can you do a search to his backpack to give you reasonable ground that he have fireworks and it's illegal for him to have without you having some type of probable cause in the first place?
You just hit it. You answered
Okay,
that
well,
question.
I know, but see, the probable cause is a long but thick, and it's a big wide door. Sometimes you can walk in that door, sometimes you can't, and you look at, we got to turn over there, but how can we write an ordinance that's gonna throw out the Fourth Amendment?
There's nothing in there about us being allowed to make illegal searches.
Well, you gonna say they walking with a backpack, how you gonna make that determination? that
See them
he
pull
had-
fireworks out of it or stop to shoot off fireworks.
I'm just saying,
No,
how you gonna
that's-
make that determination?
We're not going out to violate anybody's Fourth Amendment rights. I'm not ending up on that front page. And I've spent my life protecting that Fourth Amendment. I'm not going to throw away the last 30 years of my life.
Well, I'm just saying,
Over fireworks.
How's the officer gonna make that determination that they got fireworks? If you go to the first thing, if you just ban fireworks, because you count them, you saying that you can sell them, but yet you cannot pop them in, just like I said at first. So it look like to me, we talking two sides of a story, of a story in the first place. Because you sell them at one thing and then they ban them in the city limits. And then I want that city attorney to throw in as to how can they do a search, what reason would they have based on if they had any fireworks in them. I'm based on what he said, coming across from town with fireworks in the backpack. How do you know that person got it? What would give them officers reasonable ground to stop that person and see what's in their backpack unless he's a stop them?
Well, this, I hate to equate fireworks from possessing of drugs or anything else.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Okay.
This merely says, and if you read
I haven't read the ordinance, I'm just going about what
it says you can't sell or transfer or give away any fireworks to anyone under 18. And all he's saying is, how do you look inside somebody's backpack? Well, they won't unless they have, they
Probable
reach
cause
that.
for a search.
Right.
Period.
Have probable cause to search, reasonable suspicion to stop, probable cause to search that they do every day. Nothing in this ordinance changes that.
I got a couple more questions. You mentioned you don't know what the fine will be, the amount, the dollar amount. So, Mr. Attorney, what would that be? It's a misdemeanor, guilty of a misdemeanor. So what is the dollar value that would be imposed on me if I gave a 16-year-old of fireworks or the state line fireworks, if they sold somebody a 16-year-old fireworks, what is the dollar amount?
Misdemeanor fines range from, good Lord, next to nothing to over $1,500.
Is that at the discretion of the court?
It can be, but there are limits. So the fine cannot be over this much. And so a lot of it is discretion with the court, but it would probably be a good idea to delineate between selling to minors, right? Or merely giving it away, or the minor himself or herself. Found in possession of fireworks, if this ordinance is passed, first offense this, second offense that, third offense this.
So if old Danny Jewell gave his nephew a fireworks, right now, he's going to be grouped in with just like Kenny selling state line fireworks, just like selling it to.
Well, you could delineate that too. A wholesaler or a business versus somebody's dad buying it for their 15-year-old.
So what are the plans to police the retailer of that? I mean, are you going to be there at the retailer to see that if they are going to check to make sure they're not selling, or what's in the back of your mind as to ensure that they are not selling to these 15, 16, 17-year-olds?
To me, it would be no different than an alcoholic beverage entity selling alcohol to an underage drinker. We have to trust them that they're going to card their clients. And we would have to instill that trust in any
So
fireworks distributor. or
You are
dealership the same way.
expecting them then to look at a driver's license or something to establish that they are above age 18,
Absolutely.
imposing on them a restriction of time and money to ensure that. That is not in effect right now.
Correct.
If no one else has anything for the chief, I know Ken Carpenter would like to
Thanks, Chief.
come forward.
Thanks,
Chief, we appreciate you coming. And Mr. Carpenter?
My name is Ken Carpenter, and my company is State Line Fireworks. I've been in the fireworks business for a little over 50 years. When I saw this ordinance, I was concerned because I'm not against the ordinance. I'm not against the prohibition of selling fireworks to someone that's under 18 years of age. But I am against taking away all the items that are not problematic. And I'm really glad that all the conversation today has brought out the fact that there are many, many, many fireworks that can be sold to people that are of legal age. In fact, 12 years old is the legal age in Arkansas, and our company has never honored that. We selected 16 years old arbitrarily, and we've never had a pushback from the public on that. If a 16-year-old came in or a 12-year-old came in and they weren't accompanied by their parent or an obvious adult, then we wouldn't sell them. And that's worked well for us up till now, but we have people that are not going to abide by the law. And I was in a meeting with the assistant chief and several pastors from that area over around Ozan that we were talking about, or they were talking about. And, you know, they made it very clear that the problem wasn't necessarily all of the people in the community. It was only a few people, and most of them in 2022 were not from the Arkansas side. They came in from Texas. So the police action that was taken this last year, and I commend their efforts. They did a remarkable job at the cost of the city, and I'm not for that. I'm for safe fireworks. I'm for the prohibition of anything that's going to be contrary to that. But I don't believe that the idea, and obviously I'm vested. I have 3 locations in the city of Texarkana, Arkansas, 2 store locations and 1 stand location. If I didn't sell any fireworks next year, this next season, I shut all those locations down, the same amount of fireworks would be bought on the Texas side, they'd be bought in the county. The same amount of fireworks would be sold because people will migrate to that point. So I didn't see the validity of the idea that putting me out of business was going to change anything. And I really believe that's a fact. People will migrate to where they can buy their product. The penalty for someone having or possessing fireworks, to me, is really not important. Like I said, the people that are going to do the right thing are going to do the right thing, and the people that aren't going to do the right thing, it doesn't matter what penalty you impose, they're still going to do it. I commend the police, I support the police, and some of the people that were injured are friends of mine, not this last year, but the year before. And I certainly never want that to happen. So I think there's been some discussion about that. If we took the items that create the problem, if we took the artillery shells and we said there's going to be a prohibition on selling those to anyone under 18 years of age, I wouldn't have a problem with that. And as far as people coming in from outside and having those items in the city limits that are underage and that are improperly shooting fireworks within the city limits, I think they need to be dealt with. I'm in favor of that. So I'm not here against this ordinance. I'm here saying that it needs to be revised so that it actually accomplishes the need or the purpose of it. Because it's obvious that, you know, if you don't identify the problem and solve the issue to achieve the purpose, then you really haven't done much. Anyway, I just
Director
wanted.
Harris, Jr.
You mentioned the age of 12. Where did that come from?
I don't know, that's a state regulation.
So the state regulation is limited to the age of 12. So my question is to the city attorney, could we write something that preempt what state got imposed?
I'd have to look at what the state statute says.
Okay.
So
I
Ken,
have it.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Director Brewer.
Right. I guess on this discussion, as I mentioned earlier, what I think we have a bigger problem is that the contradiction of no firing in the city limits. I think the ordinance, with the contradiction we have in that, we might need to look at that again. I think we got a bigger problem on that issue. But I do appreciate your comments. But that's my point of view in that we have a bigger issue on the contradiction of the ordinance about no firing and then we're still selling what have you. So that's
The ordinance that I saw, and I haven't seen the actual ordinance that was written, but I read something off the internet that came through the Gazette, and it said the ordinance would prohibit any person, business, or entity to sell or give away fireworks to anyone younger than 18 inside the city. And I really don't have a problem with that, other than the issue about any fireworks. There's a class of fireworks called safe and sane. There's a class of fireworks that's classified as novelty. There's a class of fireworks that's classified as fountains and firecrackers. How many police have ever been hurt by firecrackers? They're loud, but those aren't the items that create the problem. And I'm just going from the information that the chief was putting out. It's the artillery shells, the ones that fire a projectile.
Kenny, can you give us the name of some of those novelty items? Like I was talking about the snake, some of the names that we might recognize?
Well, there's snakes, there's there's mutters, there's little spinners around like a little spinning seal. They shoot up sparks about this tall. There's little toy pistols that are just like a cap gun, but they're considered a novelty item.
And there's poppers and
there's
stuff.
There's little poppers. There are little frogs. There's just all kinds of things. There's little ground spinners that spin on the ground and jump up and down. I mean, there's hundreds of those items.
These are all classified as fireworks by state regulation, which
They're all considered 1.4G consumer fireworks.
Well, Ken, I know you said that y'all don't sell to anyone under 16. That's by your company's choice, correct? Right. Do y'all ID them now?
We don't really ID, and the reason that we don't, if we think somebody's underage, we just don't sell them. And if they're under 16, they're not going to have an ID anyway.
Yeah.
They're going to go get their buddy, or they're going to go get their parents, and they're going to come back. It's real easy. In the retail business, it's real easy to recognize a problem when it shows up. I mean, it really is. We've done this a long time, and my operators and my cashiers are pretty good at that.
Any other questions, Director Hart?
So Ken, the bigger problem that I have, I mean, for not just you, but to bring up the phrase artillery shells, I can't even begin to imagine why anybody should be sold something that's classified or named an artillery shell. I think that there is a level of fireworks that we should look at as a board that, and would that bother you? I mean, obviously it's going to affect your revenue, but would you agree that there are some of those fireworks that are dangerous that should not be out there regardless of whether you're 17 or 18?
Well, I mean, I think those things are already prohibited to shoot in the city limits.
But there are some that are of a higher capability that you do sell that are within the law.
Right, and those are the ones that I brought up as an issue that I thought would if the age of 18, and I didn't pick that age by this ordinance, that age of 18 was called out, then I'm very much in favor of not selling those items to anyone that's under 18 years of age.
So if you're saying that there's certain items that you're not going to sell someone below the age of 18, what would be that cap? Would it be firecrackers, sparklers? What would be that cap of what you would deem acceptable to be sold to someone between 16 and 18?
Any item that was considered a novelty item, that's a category. Any item that was under 200 grams of powder, 200 grams and down. And there's a lot of real nice fireworks that are under 200 grams and down, but they're not going to be an item that's going to be held in your hand and shot at a police officer. I am 100%, because of the preservation of my industry and my business, I'm in favor of anything that's going to provide a better level of safety for my consumer, for the public, and especially for the police officers.
There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, I've known you for a long time. I would just say that if we did allow certain types of fireworks under the age of 18 to be sold, then that kind of defeats the purpose of the ordinance, because possession of someone under 18 years of age is really the problem, right? So whether they have a possession of it's going to be harder for them to police that, because they could have an artillery round, what the higher grade of firework that they're not supposed to have, but then they've got stuff that they should have. So if I've got a backpack and I'm pulling out firecrackers and I'm 17 years old and I'm popping them, this ordinance would not give the police any ability to be able to police that, because they are seeing something that they think might be legal, but they may have something illegal in their bag that they can't legally go up and say, what else you got in that bag?
No, in fact, they do. It's illegal to shoot fireworks within the city limits of Texarkana. And so when they saw someone breaking the law, they would have I believe they'd have all the right that would be given anyone that was a police officer to object to what's going on.
Great.
Can you kind of piggyback off what Hart is saying? Those really high problematic explosives, I know the revenue and the bottom line, the dollar or what have you, just because we can sell them, maybe just kind of take that in consideration. Should we? I mean, if there's anything, I heard you mention about, for the betterment of the community, and I'm not telling you to take those off your inventory, what have you, but, just something to consider, just something to consider.
Well, I don't have a problem with recognizing that the artillery shells were a problem, and I'm saying that we should limit the sale of those items to people under the age of 18, and my company is more than willing to do that. But the ordinance, the way I read it would prohibit any person, business, or entity to sell or give away fireworks to anyone younger than 18 inside the city limits. It doesn't speak to the item of possession. If they're in the city limits and they're violating the law, then the police it doesn't matter what it is. They have the ability to, I don't know whether the law currently says they can confiscate those items if they're shooting fireworks in the city limits. And this last fireworks season, the city, after I met the people in the pastors over in the Ozan area and the city police, Bobby Jordan, we identified that, you know, if they're breaking the law, they're gonna be fined or arrested. The problem is, what do they do after they're fined or arrested? You know, is there any teeth in the law, and do we have the ability to actually follow through with that? I don't think that there's a large degree of people think they can get by with that because we haven't policed it. And the chief has a really, really bad situation because it's so prolific now, what's happening. And it doesn't, like I said, if I didn't sell one firework this next season, it would be very detrimental to me financially, but it wouldn't make any difference on what's sold because there are other people, other places that are selling fireworks. I'm here to support this bill. I just think it needs to be amended to be inclusive of the items that are a problem. Like I said, you know, without knowing exactly what we're trying to accomplish and how we're going to get there, just doing something isn't going to necessarily give us what we want.
Is this something you can work with the chief on and come up with something that's going to be good for everybody involved?
I would be glad to associate with anybody in the police department that wants to be proactive and come up with a solution for this. I'm more than willing to work with them.
Robert, is that
I'm here.
something that you could maybe set a meeting up with Ken and the chief, and y'all work together and see if you can come up with something and hold off on putting it on the...
Yes, we can, again, it's time of the essence, but it really isn't. I can work with all parties to ensure that we come up with something that we can present to you all, maybe in another non-action setting where you all can speak to it, and or even if necessary, a workshop. You know, if you choose to have, you can flesh out some ideas if you prefer.
Now, if it was a non-action and the board decided they wanted to take action, we could just suspend the rules and place it on the agenda, correct?
Well, it'd be on the agenda already as non-action. You just take action on it.
Okay.
But again, I would get you some information, then you all can flesh out your concerns, and you might get more additional information from your constituents that might have some viewpoints that need to be addressed also.
Okay. Would you just keep the board informed?
Yes, sir. I'll keep everybody informed.
I got another question. Can you, how many grams of powder are in the higher, more powerful artillery shells?
The artillery shells have a maximum load of 65 grams of powder per shell. And in a kit, it has to be less than 500 grams. So those artillery shells go all the way from 20 grams of powder total to 65 grams. So, you know, you have a small mortar and then you have a very large mortar. And so when I said 200 gram shells, you have shells that have really small tubes, and there may be 36 small tubes in that shell. So you take 200 and divide that by 36, you're getting 4 or 5 grams per tube. And it doesn't go off all at once. It goes boom and then boom. So
In sequence.
they're small shells.
Anyone else have any questions?
But you said 65 grams, Ken, right, on the bigger ones?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Because I'm just looking it up, it says that a normal firecracker is like 13 grams.
Yes, sir.
So you're talking maybe 4 times the amount out of, from just a regular firework.
Well, in the artillery shell, they have a canister shell, and those are the ones that the maximum load allowable is 65 grams.
I want to tell you thank you. Thank you for all that you've done for the city of Texarkana, Arkansas over the years. And thank you for discussing this and having an open mind with it.
I got one question for the chief. When a person's discharges of the fireworks inside the city, are those, I guess that person is cited, right? To be caught.
If they're caught.
if they're called. Yeah, if they're called.
You have a good voice, I tell you, very good.
He does.
I try not to use my big voice anymore. I sit behind a desk mostly.
They are cited to come to court if they're called, correct? Are those fireworks, are they confiscated?
Yes. We don't have any way to store fireworks. We don't have the proper places to store anything that's an incendiary, so we dump them in water and throw them away.
And that would be your plans if this goes into effect?
Absolutely. It's the only safe way we feel to dispose of them.
Okay, so we already have it in place that you confiscate being they in possession of a 16-year-old or a 30-year-old, right?
For not to be in possession, to be shooting them off.
Right.
The only step we're taking from what exists is that simple possession by somebody under the age of 18.
But if you go out there, like the apartment complex this last July, there for an hour and a half or 2 hours, people were shooting fireworks all. Those people, I guess, were not arrested or whatever, and their fireworks were not confiscated because it was.
We can't get to everybody.
So that's my point. I mean, we're going to be overburdened by trying to now contend with the 16 years old, trying to catch the 16-year-olds that might be in possession instead of going to, well, I hear the other neighbor over there shooting his, I need to go take care of that instead of running down the 16-year-old being in possession. I mean, my point being, I'd rather your guys chasing down the booms and the booms and the booms
That's what would get us there in the first place. Yeah.
Instead of trying to see what 16-year-old might be in possession of fire.
Well, it depends. If there's carloads of 16, 15, 17-year-olds being dropped off on your street, bringing backpacks full of big boom booms into your neighborhood to shoot off, I would think you would want us there.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And historically, that's been the problem. And that's why we focused our attention on that location this year. Hopefully it won't be a problem next year. Hopefully the word will get out and we'll have the ability to use fewer resources to keep it from sounding like Fallujah or Vietnam.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to interject if the board is okay with it, just let's let Robert get with Ken and the chief and see what they can come up with and bring a non-action item back and let's look at it and kind of go from there. Does it?
Sounds good.
Y'all have any problem with that?
Sounds great.
Again,
All right.
I just only have just one problem.
Well, we'll just leave it in Robert's capable hands.
Thank you, sir.
Before we go into director's commentary, I did not see Tyler at the back because usually you're on this side, and I wanted to tell you, thank you for taking care of the yard problem that we had for Miss McQueen. Thank you so much. Well, we'll move into director's commentary. Is there any director that would like to address the board?
We do have National Night Out coming Tuesday, and I think we have 15 different communities on the Arkansas side that are going to be celebrating that.
It's going to be in my yard.
Stop by. What are you serving?
Each ward.
Director Harris, you have anything?
No, I need to get some more facts together.
Anybody else? All right. Well, at this time, the Board of Directors will enter into an executive session. We just ask our guests and staff if they would exit the board chambers until our